Thanks for coming to our meetup. Tonight we're going to be talking about some really exciting subjects, and I've been waiting all month to get back to talking about this with the group. So this is Kara, and my name is Joshua, and we got together about 5 months ago and started talking and sharing ideas, and tonight's discussion is going to be what came about from us talking and getting the ball rolling. Kara, do you want to talk about kind of how you got here in a roundabout way?
I would love to. So, well, I was born in Brainerd, Minnesota, a tiny town in the Midwest, and from a very early age, I had a love for words and definitely a more creative passion for life. I wanted to be a writer, and that was definitely difficult, and I was told early on that was not a feasible career, that I wouldn't be able to make money off my writing. And so this put a lot of questions in mind of our purpose here and what is really important. I don't understand the concept that our only purpose here is just to make money. That doesn't compute with me. And so while other kids were preparing for college and studying, I was skipping class to go hide in the girls' bathroom and write on the window and cuddle up on the windowsill and write. And this led to a pattern of truancy. And it took my parents a little bit of time to catch on because they were both working full-time constantly. So I had a lot of freedom to pursue my own nature. My mother would refer to it as rebellious. My father would have looked at it as a free spirit. That's what I kind of like to remember. I ended up a kid with dreadlocks and the whole works. Getting in a pattern of truancy got me kicked out of school and moved to an alternative education program. And this was very life-changing for me in the area of I finally found teachers that really cared about teaching. And getting the one-on-one with the teachers, I finally actually began to learn. And through these conversations, I had one of the most amazing teachers that was so encouraging of my writing that he let me get school credit for 1 hour out of the week to just sit and write and work on my stories. And he was encouraging in my dreams to travel. It was through talking with him I learned the power of conversation, and through how one conversation with a person can change your entire level of thinking, can change your entire perception. And in my opinion, that's changing the world. And so it's in a journal entry from 2006 that I declared that I was going to change the world one conversation at a time. And that was one of my dreams. So I condensed my life into a backpack. I hopped on a train and came out to Washington. And suddenly everything changed because all of a sudden I had to make it in this big bad world. Suddenly it wasn't all happy flowers and everybody love each other. Had to suffer some homelessness, had to suffer a couple of traumatic experiences, and it was, I think, to cope that I really got into a bad pattern of losing myself in relationships and drug abusive relationships particularly. Breaking free of that pattern was one of the hardest things that I've had to do, but one of the most necessary. And I think that it's from these hardships that are the catalyst necessary for us to go and do the inner work and make the inner changes. The Dalai Lama says, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. So it's all necessary. And it was almost 2 years ago that I got introduced to a Tibetan doctor that absolutely changed my life. And he helped me to heal me from a disease that I'd been told for 10 years was incurable. And this was in 3 months, all with natural medication and meditation and just will, really. And after this experience, it brought me on an inward path. This is where I started questioning even more about what we've been told and what's been kept from us. And started me down a rabbit hole, but also led me to the better part of a year spending to do a lot of inner work that really led me to prepare me to be able to do the outer work, to become the change I wish to see in the world. And that was when I stumbled across a program on Gaia, the conscious media channel that spoke of contributionism. And through their global connector, I met Joshua, and it's just been sparking ever since. I finally learned that I'm not the only one that has these ideas. I'm not the only one that has these dreams, that, this isn't all there is. And so since we've met, it's just really been like wildfire and continues to go. Our first meetup, very big success, I thought. Sparked to Benjamin. I loved when we got to have a community meal at your house. It was very inspiring, and we keep going. So,
Thanks, Kara.
thank you.
As I said, my name is Joshua Hale, and I kind of wanted to just go and give you guys a look at how I got here. And to condense 37 years into just a few minutes is a good task. I dropped out of school in 10th grade. I got kicked out of my house at that time for being rebellious, and I look back at it now as a blessing. I didn't come out cookie cutter thinking that if I go to college, I'll get a job and I'll be happy. And so I went and hit the street. I remember sleeping on the streets, using my skateboard as a pillow. It was completely uncomfortable, and I only did that one night. Quickly came across drugs and found that when I did that, I escaped reality like Houdini, and it didn't hurt. I was able to put my feelings aside and just enjoy the present moment, no matter how awful my situation was. And that kind of describes my whole 20s. I never thought I was that smart because I didn't graduate high school. I never thought that I had the ability to keep growing and learning. I kind of felt like I was handed this lot in life, and you're just going to be like a typical stoner working at fast food and to be happy with that. It was really well into my 30s that I finally realized how destructive drugs were being in my life, and that I needed to get a handle on that, and I could not do it without getting a handle on substances. And so I finally found the switch that was keeping me addicted to opiates, that was keeping me addicted to drinking, that was keeping me addicted to smoking pot. And I was able to do the internal work to turn the switches off. And I've literally remember the times that being presented with hard drugs and not being able to do anything about that, and then being around them and being okay with it. It was literally a switch that I found in my mind, and it was through meditation and through the inner work that I was able to flip those switches myself. So this really was a time of my life that I discovered values and how valuable values are in your life. Because for my whole 20s, all my friends and associates were just people that also did drugs. And that was our common denominator. And because of that, it didn't really matter what kind of person you was. Like, oh, you smoke too? Cool. We can be friends. We are friends. Like, oh, you treat me like crap. That's okay. We're getting loaded together. Sweet. So it wasn't until I started getting sobriety under my belt that I realized values are extremely important. And what I hold value to myself is ultimately what I then attract around me. So I came to the realization that humans have unlimited potential. once I got sober and I started to grow and to develop my first business and learn how to do a business and learn what it takes to do that, I realized like I can apply this and learn anything. And really, every human can. The stigmatism that we get from the education system and society in general, saying that you really can't do much more than what the grades tell you that you are. So even though you don't get straight A's, that doesn't dictate like who you are or who you can be after school. And so I've come to learn that the most important skill that we have is the skill and ability to learn. And once you gain a toolkit on how to learn, you can apply that to anything. And because of that, we are humans with unlimited potential. We can literally learn anything at any stage of our life. We don't really run into that point of view out in society much. I came across a word called autodidact. Autodidact is a self-taught person. And so for the last 5 years, since I've got the clouds away from my head and been sober, that's what I've been. I've been teaching myself everything. And it's something that I'm excited to share with others, and we'll kind of come back to this later in the meetup about how this is going to develop in our local area. So too often we are bombarded with problems through the media that we really have no control over. The election, the French election, bombs on the other side of the ocean. We really are bombarded with all these problems that can really make us feel helpless. If we watch the news and leave that on, or start scrolling through our Facebooks for long enough, you're going to feel pretty crappy. You don't feel like you can do anything about that. And really that's what this meetup is about. It's about finding something we can actually do to better ourselves locally as a community. So we'll come back around this. From jumping in out of rabbit holes, I came across the social economic platform called Contributionism. And Contributionism is kind of what we're going to explore and kind of give a roundabout way of showing the mechanics, how contribution works, and then like what aspects we can take from that and start applying that for ourselves here locally. This is what I'm really excited to share with you. So, upon finding Contributionism, this is when I met Kara. I actually joined the website about this time last year, and I kind of sat on my hands because I really didn't have anybody to talk to about this. I really didn't have anybody else that was showing interest in anything like this. And so I sat on my hands, and then Kara popped up on the website, and it's in Bellingham. So I was like, hey, how you doing? And we had our first meeting, and immediately, like, the flame lit. And we've been pretty much meeting up every week, 2 weeks, and getting these ideas going back and forth. And now they've exponentially grown to this awesome boulder that's gaining momentum. And we're excited to share what we have came up with you guys. So the way we were going to format this meetup was we're going to give you guys some like basic grammar, go over some words and ideas, and then move into the mechanics of contributionism, and then go into our ideas of how we can take bits and pieces of all these great concepts and utilize them for our local area. So afterwards, we're going to have open discussion and questions. So if you think of any questions, please write it down, and we can make sure to talk about it afterwards. Here's a pen. So first up was the non-aggression principle. So this is such a key and a keystone concept in philosophy that we really take this for granted. And it wasn't until I read it and saw it on paper that I was like, oh, yes, this is very, very real. And us as friends and us as community members, we kind of take this for granted and kind of just assume this principle is in order. But so the non-aggression principle it's an ethical stance which asserts that aggression is inherently illegitimate. Aggression, for the purpose of non-aggression principle, is defined as initiating or threatening the use of any and all forcible interference with an individual or an individual's property. That includes theft and coercion with threat of violence. In contrast to pacifism, the non-aggression principle does not preclude violent self-defense. So that means that you have the right to defend yourself. You have the right to stand up for yourself. If somebody is violating the non-aggression principle, then you have the right to stand up for yourself, and you can help each other out when that situation arises. So just that core principle of I'm going to make an agreement with you that we're not going to use force on each other. Very basic. And that simple principle in play has such huge ramifications if you apply it to the larger society. You can start to trust people just based off of that. Cool, we can work together.
Changing your entire expectation on people rather than having the anticipation off-right that someone could potentially harm you. It's exactly the opposite. It's completely switching that part in your brain.
Right. And so you then, upon that agreement, can look for the good things in each other because we've agreed to this. So that leads into voluntaryism. Voluntaryism is by placing the expectation of peacefulness on others, you are automatically accepting the obligation not to harm them. So it totally switches around how we normally act in a hostile environment. Whereas we're not on the defense of oh, who's going to screw me over today? We are safe to assume that people are not out to get me. So furthermore, if you harm or threaten another person, you're breaking your end of the bargain and forfeiting your own right for peace, allowing them the moral right to use defensive force against your attacks. Simple concept, very powerful implications.
So we go to unity within diversity, which is a great phrase, and it can be traced back to Leibniz, who used it as a definition of harmony. Unity means oneness, and variety, unity, oneness, and variety. It's mixed ethnic community areas where multiple cultural traditions exist. And so this is also, I think, encompassing that we are all the same in our differences, that it is our differences that makes us individuals. So this is possible with the shared acceptance of each other's views and beliefs, so long as they are respectful and without force. It is being able to recognize that we are all unique individuals with diverse views and belief systems, and therefore we have no right to force our beliefs onto anyone else. So, very basic. Respect each other's beliefs, and don't force your beliefs down anyone's throat.
And you have the right to your beliefs. That's the thing. And simple concepts, but apply this out in the world. Go to a protest and see this not in action. So another key concept, we're gonna circle back around, and all these concepts, as we said, we're gonna come back and have some purpose behind them. So, pursuit of self-mastery. Pursuit of self-mastery, self meaning having a quality throughout, and mastery meaning a possession or display of great skill or technique. Or another way to say that is skill or knowledge that makes one master of a subject. So the pursuit of self-mastery was what I developed when I finally pulled my head out of the clouds. I then pursued self-mastery. And that's, you'll never be a master But that's not the point. It's about pursuing self-mastery. And if you can be around others that are pursuing that, we all get to help each other through it.
Regenerative communities. So regenerative comes from the renewal or restoration of a biological system, such as a forest. And then you got a community, which is a group of people with a common characteristic or interest living together within a larger society. So regenerative, we are going to restore our communities. We're going to create abundant communities. That's the point of the regenerative.
I heard this like 2 years ago, and to always hear sustainable communities is really not setting the bar high enough. Like, to sustain is not good enough for this planet. We really, with all the damage that's been done, we really have to do twice as much good as just sustaining. Another great concept, mutual aid groups. I've faintly heard of this word before, but upon coming across the concept, I've been really excited about it. Mutual aid is a voluntary, reciprocal exchange of resources and services for mutual benefit. A mutual aid is arguably as ancient as human culture itself. But with how isolated we can get, especially a voice online, like how many mutual aid support systems do we all really have?
Leads us into contributionism, finally. So the definition of contributionism is in the name itself. Everyone contributes their natural talents and skills towards the better part of the entire community. The contributionism system depends on the contribution of the people, but the philosophy goes deeper. It recognizes not only the contribution that an individual has to offer their community, but also the right to make personal choices. An ultimate goal is a society that functions without the need for money, any form of barter or trade, or the attachment of value to material things. This is where everyone can choose to live anywhere and nobody is forced to do anything against their will. A system that provides unimaginable abundance of all things on all levels. And sounds like utopia because it could be, and it's possible.
So we're going to kind of dive into down the road, what would a society operating with contributionism look like, and how would it work? So some of the goals that that society would have is creating a people's bank. And this blew my mind when I thought of the possibility of it even being real. A people's bank creates money for the people by the people. It's tax-free, it's interest-free, with the potential to provide 100% employment and stop financial enslavement. And so what that means, if you have a business and you want to start a business, you can go to your people's bank and they'll loan you the X amount of money you need to start your business without fees and taxes and becoming indebted to that money system. It's just there to support and help you.
We can let our scientists and inventors deliver a renewable source of energy, and to support our traditional healers and research scientists in finding alternative cures for all diseases. And I like this because a lot of people, when they hear, especially when they hear a moneyless society, they immediately think, oh, we're going back to Stone Ages. What this could do is actually set our inventors free without having the burden of the financial system holding them down or keeping these technologies from being released. This is actually setting us free in the technological world. And obviously with diseases as well and cures and different medicines, it's just going to open the door.
Yeah, cures aren't profitable.
No.
So another goal is to support our farmers at every level to grow organic food so that no one ever goes hungry again. I don't know if with you guys, but we have a garden and we can't eat all the food that it produces. Like, this is a common problem when you actually are able to grow food from the ground.
Another goal is to decentralize the government so people can govern themselves in their own communities. taking care of their own needs immediately, supported by the New People's Bank. And this is something that I feel like will, especially when we get a little further on, we can see how this is possible and how we can start decentralizing and taking back that power to us. But that is one of the goals, is to allow each community to govern themselves. We don't need some faraway politician telling us what is good for us. That doesn't make any sense.
Another goal for a city or in a society running off of contributionism is to restructure the judiciary and the legal system. To be written by the people for the people, unlike the unjust legal system we face in our course today, which holds the rights of corporations above the rights of living, breathing human beings. This was put into place, I believe, over 100 years ago, and it's insane.
In the beginning stages of implementing contributionism, money will still be required because we are still stuck in this matrix right now. It's impossible to think that we can just light up all the money and say it doesn't exist and just throw it away, as much as I would love to. But that's not realistic. We have to use these tools in order to break free. We have to use the money to free us from the money. So.
That's right. I don't think anybody here would feel comfortable with hitting like no government, no system button right now and dealing with the consequence of that. This has to be a gradual, mutually beneficial process in order for this to be a win-win situation. This concept was really cool to me, the minority rule. Philosophy of cooperation, unity, and support rather than competition and division. Our communities are made up of many minority groups that struggle to perform their service to a capitalist competitive world. In contributionism world, all minorities will receive all the help and technology they need to serve the community to the best of their ability. So I've heard democracy explained as a bully tactic. So long as 51% of the room votes yes, 49% of the room has to forego their needs and wants for the greater good, for the bigger part of the pie. That's nearly half of the room doesn't get their need met. It doesn't work. So I really like breaking it down and addressing everybody's needs in the smaller minority groups, because we can't just say, this great example, think of a family on a road trip and there's like a food restaurant coming up and they're like, all right, who wants to go to McDonald's? And then one of the kids like, oh, I'm gluten intolerant. They don't have any like gluten-free options on the restaurant. Is that family just going to be like, sorry, you're outvoted, and go to McDonald's? Or does that family actually operate like with the needs of every individual in mind, to where they'll come up with a different solution just because that one person isn't having their needs met?
And this actually is good because it leads into the other concept that I've really enjoyed, and this is, for when this is all being implemented in, say, a fully functioning contributionism society. How are laws going to be distributed? How are things, who is going to govern the communities? This is going to be determined by what they call the Council of Elders. And this is going to be a council of, they say 13, 12 around 1, going along with some sacred geometry along with that. And the laws and rules will be written by the people for the people. Each community will appoint their own representative body whose primary objective is to look after the interests of the community and all of the people. And this is done through an open election. This is where this doesn't have anything to do with politics, political standards, and how well you run your business or how well you do this or that. This is, we want we want trusted, respected members to be helping make our decisions for us. It's our grandparents. It's these people that we trust, even that we push off to the side. That these are the ones that could have the wisdom to help and know how things should be done.
Because they have the experience, they have the skills, and they're the best in the community. So why not put them in a decision-making role? And also about open elections. This was a new concept to me. We have closed elections. And so what is an open election? That means that, say, one of the elder members has a cousin, and that cousin wants to become one of the circle, one of the elders on the circle. But his cousin is a thief. Because this is an open election process, if his uncle was to support his cousin or his nephew, he would be exposing himself that he has not the best tendencies because he's supporting a thief to try and get onto the elder circle. So instead of having closed elections where nobody knows who's really voting for who, we're out in the open. And so because of that, corruption would not be able to infiltrate into the circle because you would identify yourself as corrupt by supporting someone who's corrupt. Pretty fascinating. Simple, but fascinating. So the next that really comes into some of the mechanics of how parts of the society can become money-free right off the bat. And this is community projects. Community projects are the emphasis of contributionism, and they create as many community projects as possible, slowly reducing dependency on outside produce, materials, and money, so needs. And each project should have some kind of short-term aspect to it while providing long-term solutions towards self-sustainability. The projects will cover as many areas as possible to allow as many people with as many diverse skills as possible to participate. Examples are growing food, ceilings, harvesting, packaging, baking, water purification, health technology, manufacturing, furniture, windows, are basic needs. So the city, the Council of Elders would turn a project into a community project. Say a baker owned a bakery, and he was the best at what he did, and the city could benefit from having bread for everybody. And so they go to the baker and say, how would you like if we deemed your business as a community project? And with that community project, something we haven't mentioned before is this volunteer labor force that comes along with it. To be a part of this contributionism society involves contributing. And so 3 hours a week, everybody contributes towards one of these city projects. So as the baker, being approached by the Council of Elders, he would essentially be getting free labor to bake bread for the whole community. And we do this with thirds, to where the baker would make a third bread. You want?
Yeah, and I do call this the rule of three because it just it's an easy kind of way to remember how the breakdown goes as you go. So where the 3 hours per week comes into play is if you have, and we can even just lowball right now and start slow. If we have 100 people that agree to contribute 3 hours a week to a community project, that is automatically 300 free labor hours that business can use to provide. So that means that when we're producing, the first thing we're going to do is take how many people that you have contributing to your project, because this means that they're also getting the resources that are being provided. So you want to calculate how much bread can your community consume on a regular basis. And I mean, that's pretty easy to think about. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I can't go through a loaf of bread in a day. I mean, it's pretty easy when you can start kind of mapping out and where we don't need excess anymore. When you're getting out all your resources provided to you, there's no longer any need to have greed, to hoard. So you're going to produce 3 times as much bread as what the community needs. and you will take that extra 2/3 and you're going to sell it off at the open market. And this is where the fun comes in, is because you're getting all of these, the business is getting all of this free labor, which is going to cut costs down tremendously. So what can we do? We can then sell that 2/3 off at a lower cost than any of the corporations or businesses else surrounding it. And so by that, then you think, well, what are we going to do with the profits? So this is where I call the rule of 3. So you take, after you've gotten that 2/3, you take that number of profits and you're going to divide it into 3 one more time. 1/3 will go directly back to the baker or the investor or the business owner who decided to turn their business into a community project. They're automatically getting 1/3 of the profits. This is why, so you're getting free labor and you're getting 1/3 of the profits, hands down. The next third is going to be basically recycled right back into the community projects to keep it going. If there's more left, you can use it to start up new community projects or go alert where it's needed. The last third of those profits, it gets evenly distributed to each and every member of the community that has participated. So from contributing 3 hours a week, you are getting free bread and what other resources might be from other surrounding community projects. But starting 1, you're getting free bread. You're also then getting a check at the end of the week or the month or however. And soon enough, if you get so many more community projects up and running, then all of a sudden you're going to be making more income from this 3 hours a week than you're getting from your 9-to-5 job. So this is part of the transitional period of using the money to break free. And then eventually when we say down the road, when we're no longer needing to use the money anymore, so what do we do with the excess? We share it with our neighbor communities, because they're probably going to have resources that we don't have. They're going to have different things, different climates that we can't grow, we can't do. So this is where we share. It's not even about trading anymore, it's sharing.
And with the city community projects, the wheat farmer can become a community project. And so that wheat is then freely given to the baker. And so all these basic needs of our community ends up becoming community projects and becoming abundant, giving, and connected and to all of our needs.
One thing I really like is we all have a diverse number of talents and skills out there, but the one thing that is the same is we have an equal measure of time. And that's why I say the contributionism system is measured in time. They're trading our time for resources.
And this kind of points into education and how this society would educate. And imagine all of these community projects going on around you in this town. And by donating your 3 hours, you get exposed to all of these different jobs and all these different tasks and city projects. And so, as human beings, we are most able to learn in a social environment, hands-on presentation. We learn from the best shoemaker in the town. And so, by us going out and doing these volunteer labor, we're learning new skills. We're becoming more and more valuable to our society. And think of the children, and the children participating right off the bat and having a whole town to learn from, and all of these projects open to teaching somebody. Like, it's mind-blowing to think being raised that way, to like, yeah, I can do it all. So this leads to, okay, this great story of what if you want to travel? So you live and contribute at this village, this contribution village, and say you want to go to Europe. Well, perfectly fine. You look at your bank account. It's gigantic because you have no need for money. All your basic needs are met. You're getting checks for being a part of this whole abundant system. And so you're like, I'm going to go to Europe. Okay, so you buy a first class ticket because why not, right? And so you fly over to Europe, you land, and instead of renting a car, I'm just going to buy a car, right? Because why not? I have all this like useless money. And so you buy a car, you drive over to another contribution village, and you like give it away when you get there because You have no need for a car. So you go in, you go to like the headquarters or the main office, and you're like, hi, my name is Joshua. I'm from the West Coast Contributionism Village, and I just wanted to come and travel and explore other villages. And they're like, well, great, wonderful, thank you. Welcome to be here. And they said, so what's your specialty? And I'm like, well, I really love to cook large meals. And they're like, great. We feed people all day, every day. So why don't you, on Friday, show up at the kitchen for your 3 hours of work? Great. Awesome. And here's a key to a cottage. You can either be at the beach or you can be up in the mountains, your choice. But here's a free place to stay. Thank you very much. We'll check in Friday, and welcome to the village. And one step further is, so what do they do with all this like abundance that is created? And the idea was like to create large warehouses. I know you don't like to think of this, but think of like a Walmart, and you have like a contributionism card, and you get to like go inside the Walmart and take and use anything that you need, because this is all leftover abundant material. And so you go in there and you use your card, and you can travel and bring your card anywhere and have access to anything that you need. And because of this abundant model, why hoard stuff? Why take a bunch of stuff you don't need? Because there's not a lack sense in this community. So you're not going to feel like, oh my gosh, they're going to take it away from me. So why hoard stuff at all? Like, you're just going to use what you need.
So when traveling to other contributionism communities or villages, then all you do is, you check in with their council of elders and find out where you can contribute your 3 hours that week. And that would be all it would take. And they can put, have some options for you. Well, we need help in the gardens or wherever, and then you've done your 3 hours, so now you have access to all of our goods. In contributionism, individuals own their own personal property, although ownership doesn't long term, I feel like ownership won't really apply, because we don't own the earth. We occupy, and we move around freely. But we are free to make our own choices. We can make our own choices about our needs, and individuals make choices about whether or not they will contribute. If they choose not to contribute, then they choose not to receive the benefits of contributionism. There are specific instances, of course, for someone being incapable of contributionism through disability or age, and there's always going to be a place for them in the society as well. So we're combining these principles into where we've been developing a 3-phase plan of action. We've been doing a lot of searching and taking aspects from all of these different ideas that we've come across and seeing how we can build something to implement here locally in Bellingham.
Even contributionism, like that utopia society, as great as it sounds, seems really far away. And like, we can't just like build a wall and expect to be able to accomplish that tomorrow. So what's realistic, and how can we start implementing things locally and take action to start heading in that direction? Because right now, by not moving towards any of these concepts and ideas, we're literally at the mercy of what the people on TV want us to do. So now we're going to learn how to depend and support each other as a community. Does anybody need a break? Anybody need a bathroom break or anything like that? Is this a good amount of information being shot at you? We can take a break and come back in 5-10 minutes. You guys good? All right. Awesome. So our 3-phase plan of action. So the first phase is forming unity pods. And that's in order to connect and share skills. Our goal is to connect and establish mutual aid groups through skill sharing. So by connecting with others in your community who have shared agreements of the non-aggression principle, we can form small groups. And these small groups, 8 has been thrown around there. 7 to like 9 people is a really functioning, small group. Too many people and decisions can't be made, and too little people and nothing can, you're not strong enough to get anything done. So I was told 8's a sweet spot number as far as forming pods. I mentioned this to a friend of mine, and he's like, yeah, but that's going to turn into 20 because everybody has family, and those family members are going to be part of the pod too. Makes sense. So 8 to 20 people are going to be these pods. Now, like I said, thinking back to the non-aggression principle, that's going to be the agreement to enter into this group. I promise not to use force on you. That includes theft and coercion and threatening you with force. Very basic concept, very basic agreement. Once that's established, great. We can create an environment where I can trust somebody I don't know, but we've made this agreement, and it's a perfect place to start forward from. So we're going to get together every week, 2 weeks, in order to share skills. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. We will get together and do little informal, small presentations. This is where we can take even the smallest skills that are in our backbones and start sharing them with each other. One person in the group knows CPR. Get together and teach that to the rest of the group. You can do farming, permaculture. There, some other examples are, sustainability, bicycle mechanics 101, how to form healthy habits, home repair, how to brew gin, trivium method, first aid, and etc. And so we will then be strengthening our unity pods.
And that's June, not Jin.
June.
Jin, down the road, perhaps.
Stutter.
So you're getting together with a small group of people in order to strengthen each other. We all have innate skills that we're good at, and by sharing this with our group, we all become stronger. But not just one person knows CPR, the whole group will learn how to do CPR. You become this really nice, tight working unit. So you identify the strengths and weaknesses of individuals and of the group, and you can help each other become stronger. There's group training that we're planning on offering, nonviolent communication, being able to communicate with each other effectively and to be able to address the needs of individuals. Meditation, there's this really cool app that I'll share with you that I came across. Critical thinking. Critical thinking is not really taught in school. You're given declarative statements and told that that is true, but you're not told how to come to that conclusion for yourself. So critical thinking is a skill that we can teach to one another. Along with that, how to build healthy habits. I know a lot when it comes to this because I had so many unhealthy habits coming out of my drug phase, and really learning how to address those and then replace those with healthy habits.
Evaluate your unity pod's freedom of time versus freedom of money. So really evaluate. We are all still working our jobs. We're still trying to find the resources and the means to make things happen. So it's important to evaluate what is possible and feasible within your unity pod.
Yeah, so there's ways to exchange time for money, and we'll get more into that later. Determine your unipod's short and long-term goals, and this is also just early in development, but creating like businesses and sources of income for your pod. With all you guys sharing skills, there's no reason that you guys cannot what's that word?
So forming a business would be one logical outcome of the activity of a pod.
Right.
Okay, and that's something people are familiar with. So to see that capability or to aim for that capability probably is a good way to get people to make a shift from that old way.
Right, right. So this whole concept of living in a world without money is really far off. And so we're developing a plan of we have to use money to head in that direction. And so by creating these unity pods and getting together, skill share, becomes stronger as a group, and just our basic intuitive ways, we'll be coming up with ways to make money, because it's something that when we talk about phase 2 and like the 3 hours that we can donate a week, that really will offset our ability to make profitable businesses because we have this labor force. But I digress. We'll come back around to that. Something I wanted to really share with you was this really cool app called Cell 411. Now, Cell 411 is a real-time free emergency management platform. It is essentially like, picture Google Maps. And on that Google map, I would have my location where I am right here. But also in my surrounding area, I have my other pod members on this map. And with this platform, we can create real-time responses to if you have a flat tire, if you find yourself in danger, if you need medical aid. You end up creating this underground network, and where these pod members that you all can have learned to trust and depend on and grow stronger as a group, what if they're like 3 minutes away and you get a flat tire, and so you like punch in on your alert system, I just got a flat tire, like sweet, I'll be right there. Like, awesome, cool.
If you're walking down through the woods and you feel like you're being followed and you don't feel safe, you can send out a little alert system, and the closest person in your area can come rushing to your aid. So this is how we can start bypassing having to go through the current system, having to call 911 at every turn because we haven't been given nothing else that we can do. We can start taking that dependency back from the system within our Unity pod. And by sharing, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, aren't I?
Well, I've never really had a great outcome by calling 911. Yeah. And so by learning to depend on each other, by growing these skills, how to reset a bone. Your friend knows that. So that would be a great skill to have available. Another great way to use this platform is to send messages to your pod. Say you just harvested your garden in your backyard and you have a ton of kale. This is a common problem. So you hit up your pod members and be like, yo, I got a ton of kale. Like, can you guys help me either distribute this to the homeless? Let's put on like a big family dinner. So you're able to distribute resources, which then comes back at you because of this abundant model that we'll be working off of. Another great part of this is live video streaming on this platform. So say you're walking downtown and boom, like you see a guy break open somebody's window and start stealing out of a car or start breaking into a house. And you just like with 2 buttons start recording this. Like there's no safer way to be able to send that alert out. There's a crime being committed. You're videotaping it and broadcasting it live on YouTube. And other people can show up and like stop the situation or make sure the authorities get known about it so they can do something about it. By skill sharing and strengthening your Unity pods, you simultaneously build your voluntary labor force, which would then prepare you for phase 2. If you have a tight group, and also what I wanted to mention, say you have your 8, those 8 members can then create a pod of their own, and it just keeps growing to where we all have this interconnected network of people getting together to share skills. And like on the map, on that Google map, imagine your whole town, all these people that have agreed to the non-aggression principle and are pursuing self-mastery. And so you can depend on these people, even though you never met them. You're like, I got a flat tire, and you hit it up, and somebody shows up that's a part of the Unity pods. Pretty safe bet to be able to let them help you. And because of that, this should just continue to grow and grow. And our whole plan with these phases is to be completely transparent and open with how these are formed in order so this whole system can be replicated in every city around the world.
Laying the cornerstones so that people can take this and use the cornerstones to build what's right in their own communities. And so in phase 2, called collaboration and implementation. And this is where we get to expand our skill shares further with group projects that will continue to reduce our dependency on the capitalist system. We can start doing the garden parties, garden projects where everyone in your Unity pod can all go to one person's house one weekend and help set up their community, set up their backyard garden. Next week, everyone goes to Sally's and sets up her garden. So this way, nobody is having to do all this hard work on their own. You're getting this group effort, this shared effort. And from there, we can start partnering with local farms and businesses. And this is the fun part, is when we've been simultaneously building our volunteer labor force. And this is when we get to go and offer to these businesses and farms, say that they have these resources that we need. We can start offering our time for these resources. We can start offering that 3 hours a week as resources. And this has been being done. I would like to mention that down in Oregon, one of the other, another person in the Contributionism website circle, she and her group went to a realtor, and there was an abandoned building in town. This is down in Eugene, and she and 10 people offered up 3 hours a week to this realtor's business in return to have this building. And he was absolutely baffled, and it took him back a little bit, but after he thought about it, he's accepted. He's giving them a free building, and in turn, he's getting 30 free hours of labor a week to use for his business as he seems fit.
So they now have like a center downtown.
And that's really all
Eugene. Yeah. Well, to back it up to the backyard gardens, we would use the threes, to where the landowner whose garden it was, they then kept a third of what they harvest, and 2/3 then gets distributed out to all the members. So think about all the backyard gardens. You knock out like 4 gardens in the beginning of summer. Those all grow and turn into this massive harvest, and everybody becomes abundant from that. The landowner and all the members then reap huge abundance.
Let's see, we'll need to, as things develop, identifying project managers will be very important, because as we continue to build these projects, we are going to need to be organized, and we're going to need people to manage them.
So we're working on becoming a business in order to be able to handle the large workload that this could turn into. Phase 3 is creating abundance and prosperity. It will eventually lead to pods being able to live together in communities. And we haven't spent much time developing that, but that's the direction that we would like to end up heading. And so that will be developed as we move along.
Imagine having all of these potential farms or businesses, and again, these are all creating resources that we need on a regular basis. And so imagine all of these businesses partnering up together. And this doesn't mean that each of us has to contribute 3 hours to each and every business. No, the partnership means that by contributing your 3 hours to one of the projects, you are receiving the benefits from all of the projects.
Great. So this is our plan. We're planning to start next week and have our first Unity Pod meeting, and we would love to invite you all over and start sharing some skills. We plan on continuing to put on meetups and presentations. We just had a projector offered to us, so we'll be able to get into more specifics of what we covered in upcoming meetups. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Awesome. Does anybody have any questions? That's a loaded question. Well, great. Again, thanks for showing up, and we're gonna hang out and talk more about this, get to know each other, and we'll see you guys at our next meetup. Thanks.